All right, let's talk about something that's blasting its way out of science fiction and straight onto the front pages of financial news: the economics of space mining. Seriously, this isn't just about cool spaceships anymore. It's about a massive new economic frontier that's just beginning to open up. So let's just start with the big one, the question that's got billions of dollars flying around. Think about it. What if the next gold rush, the next oil boom, wasn't anywhere on this planet? We're talking about asteroids packed with precious metals and a moon that could become the energy hub for the entire solar system. This one question changes everything. So, how in the world did we get here? For our first section, let's look at how an idea that felt, completely impossible just a decade ago has suddenly become a very real, very tangible thing for investors and even entire nations. For the longest time, the barrier to space mining was never about a lack of stuff up there. We've known for ages that asteroids are loaded with valuable resources. The real problem was just the brutal cost of getting there. The equation was simple. It cost way more to launch the mission than anything you could possibly bring back. And then came this number: 90%. Thanks to reusable rockets pioneered by companies like SpaceX, the cost of sending a single kilogram into orbit has dropped by over 90%. This one change, this single technological leap, completely flipped the script. The math finally started to make sense. Okay, so the cost barrier is down. Now let's talk about what's actually on the other side. In this next section, we're going to dig into the sheer scale of the opportunity, the specific prizes that are driving this whole new industry forward. For anyone looking to invest, it always boils down to the numbers, right? And well, these numbers tell a pretty incredible story. We're looking at a market that's projected to grow from about $2 billion today to over $19 billion by 2035. That's a growth rate of almost 25% year after year. This isn't a dream, it's an emerging asset class. So what's pushing this so hard from down here on Earth? It's really three main things. First, we're facing growing shortages of the critical minerals that we need for everything, from our phones to electric car batteries. Second, there's a huge geopolitical risk in relying on just a few countries for those minerals. And third, you've got major government support, with NASA and others providing funding and creating the legal groundwork for companies to get started. Now, this isn't some random hunt for rocks. The targets are incredibly specific. Near-Earth asteroids are like floating hardware stores, packed with metals like platinum, nickel, and cobalt. The moon, on the other hand, is more like a strategic gas station and resource depot. It's got water ice, which you can turn into rocket fuel, and something else, something even more valuable.
And that brings us to the moon's ace in the hole, helium-3. It's almost non-existent here on Earth, but there's tons of it on the moon. And why is it so important? Well, it could be the perfect fuel for clean nuclear fusion, basically the holy grail of energy. It's also essential for things like quantum computing. So yeah, helium-3 is a really, really big deal.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now, let's get into the how. This section is all about the actual tech and the companies that are out there right now building this new frontier piece by robotic piece. So forget any images you have of miners with pickaxes. Space mining is all about high-tech automation. First, you send out robotic prospectors to scan and find the best spots. Then, autonomous bots do the actual digging and extraction. And then comes the most critical step, using those resources right there in space. And that brings us to this key concept, ISRU. It's a fancy term, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It means living off the land. Instead of dragging everything you need all the way from Earth, which is crazy expensive, you use what's already there. You turn water ice on the moon into rocket fuel, or use metals from an asteroid to 3D print spare parts. This is the secret sauce that makes a real space economy possible. And who's doing all this work? Well, it's not just one company, it's a whole ecosystem. You've got the super-focused startups like Astroforge, who are nimble and moving fast. Then you have the infrastructure companies, kind of like the guys who sold picks and shovels during the gold rush. And of course, you've got the huge aerospace giants like Blue Origin, bringing massive capital and a long-term vision. It's a fascinating mix of players. All right, let's get to our final section, because with this much money, technology, and ambition in play, things are getting very complicated very fast. We are now entering a brand new high-stakes space race. So the legal framework for all of this is, well, it's a little shaky. There's this old treaty from 1967 that says no country can plant a flag on the moon and declare it theirs. But, and this is the important part, The treaty says absolutely nothing about a private company going up, digging up resources, and claiming ownership of them. That legal gray area is where this whole new game is being played. And that ambiguity has basically created two competing teams. On one side, you got the US-led Artemis Accords, which actively support commercial companies extracting resources. And on the other, you have the China and Russia-led ILRS program. This is the new geopolitical fault line, and it's being drawn in space.
And let's be really clear here. This is not a safe investment. The risks are enormous. You need billions of dollars just to get a mission off the ground. One launch failure can wipe you out completely. Heck, even if you succeed and bring back a mountain of platinum, you could accidentally crash the global price. And on top of all that, you have all the legal and geopolitical mess we just talked about.
So why on earth is anyone still investing? It all comes down to this one powerful idea. The returns are asymmetric. What does that mean? It means, yeah, you could lose every penny you put in, but if you win, you don't just double your money. The potential upside is so massive, so transformative, it's almost impossible to calculate. Because the ultimate prize here isn't just about selling raw materials. It's about controlling the fundamental infrastructure of the future. We're talking about owning the gas stations in orbit, controlling the shipping lanes between the Earth and the Moon, and building the very systems that everyone else will have to use for the next 100 years. So, to cut through all the hype, these are the real milestones to keep an eye on over the next few years. Are they actually confirming water ice on the Moon? Are we seeing the first commercial deliveries of helium-3? Are these ISRU systems actually working? Each one of these is a major signal that will tell us if this is the real deal. So in the end, what we're all watching here isn't just a sci-fi movie coming to life. It's something much more profound. We are literally watching the creation of the operating manual for an entirely new economic reality. And that brings us to the final and most important question. The momentum is here, the tech is advancing, the money is flowing. So the question isn't if this industry is going to exist, it is. The real multi-trillion-dollar question is, who is going to own it?